Hi everyone. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. For those of you that are new to Chalk Couture, either you have never heard of the products before, or if you have and you're just brand new, either just getting started or you've considered ordering but you just really don't know what to do with the products once you get them. So I want to go step by step and show you basically everything from the beginning. And that way you guys can post questions or comments, and then I can answer your questions if you need help with anything. So the first thing that I want to do, I actually am using a 12 by 18 board. It's a chalkboard surface, and I'm using the Make Yourself at Home transfer. It is a C-size transfer, and yes, the actual name of it is Make Yourself at Home. So I'm gonna set that aside for a second, and I wanna show you how I'm gonna start. I have my chalk paste. I'm just gonna use basic white today. First thing we do is take the lid off, and I've been using these wooden stir sticks. I find that they're a little bit more durable than the plastic. The plastic ones are nice if you just have, it needs a quick stir, but if your chalk paste is older and needs a little bit reviving, I find that the wooden ones hold up a lot better. So normally I will need to add just a little bit of water to it. So I wanted to show you what kind of water that we use. We use distilled water, and we do this because the chalk paste is a natural product, and if you use tap water or well water, anything that isn't filtered or distilled, there's a chance that it's going to mold on you. And actually, I'll be right back. I'm going to show you. Somehow I must have gotten some tap water into one of my chalk pastes, and I will show you what it looks like when that happens. It's not very pleasant. It becomes unusable and your chalk paste is done. So this is what happens when it becomes moldy. It is a natural product, so when it gets any microorganisms from your tap water or well water, it will mold. So it's unusable now. So that is going to be for the trash, but I probably will just hold on to it if I need to show anyone. So the way I add water is I don't add it from the gallon. I put it in a little spritz bottle, and I just spritz maybe 1 or 2 small squirts. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the scraper and scrape off any excess that I have around the rim. All that in there, because all of that is reusable once the water softens it up and you get it all stirred back in there. So go ahead and stir it up really well. And if you need to, you can just kind of smash those little hard spots against the edge of your container. Help break them down. And I like the little corner, the wooden corner, the wooden stir sticks that have the little corner edge on them, or that little angled edge, because they get right into the edge of that jar, so you can get all of your chalk paste out of there. So stir that up really well. Sometimes you just have to, chop those little pieces up. I'm not gonna get it all broken down right now, but if I had some time, I would sit there and work on it, but it's good enough to use right now. So I usually use like a little plastic container or a paper plate or something to put my used tools on. Just keep that handy so that way you don't have to set it on your tablecloth and have to worry about scraping paste off it later. I'm going to use, this is the small squeegee, so I'm going to use that for this project today. I'll put my lid on a second and push that aside and get my transfer ready to go. And I will post the names, I will post links to the names of the transfer and of the surface that I'm using today, along with the chalk paste and any tools that I'm using, in case you want to check those out on my website. These are fuzzing cloths, and the reason we use these, the transfers have adhesive on the back and they're reusable. Probably you can usually get about 10 to 12 uses out of them if you clean them really well and take good care of them. But since it's so sticky at first, and the first few times that you use it, you'll want to fuzz them. And you don't need 2 cloths, but I just have 2 because I do workshops, so I need enough for everyone to go around. And the reason we fuzz them is because we don't want it to stick too much to the surface. If it sticks too much and it's really hard to get off, there's a chance that you're going to warp that transfer when you try to pull it off because it's sticking too well. And if you do that, there's a chance that you might not be able to reuse it because it will warp the design and it just won't look like it was originally intended to look. So just go ahead and pull your transfer out. And pull up a corner or an edge, whatever you can get a hold of. Larger transfers, I like to just kind of pull back away from the carrier sheet, and normally I like to write on the back, and I forgot my Sharpie marker, so I won't be doing that right now. If you have a transfer that has a bunch of different pieces and you have to cut it apart, you definitely want to write on all those little pieces on the back, so that way you know which side the transfer goes on, and it goes on the shiny side. You can tell the difference. You see the shininess, and then this is the dull side. You will always want to place your transfer back on the shiny side. If it gets stuck to the matte side, sometimes it's really hard to get back off and you could potentially ruin your transfer. So that's why we always mark on the back of the back of the transfer, or the matte side. Once I get this on my surface, I will turn this around so that way you can actually see it the right way, or read it the right way, if that makes sense. So keep fuzzing until you feel like enough of that stickiness is gone and you're not going to have an issue. If you see any fuzzies sticking into your screened in area, you want to pull those off, because that will keep your chalk paste from feeding through that area. So now I'm going to move these out of the way, find out where my top is. There's the top. Okay, I'm going to stand up real quick for this. Just like to center this. Figure out how big it is first on the surface. A little bit further down. I just kind of eyeball it. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you end up putting it down and chalking it, the nice thing is you can scrub it off and redo it if you don't like it. All right, so once you have it where you want it, what I like to do is I'll take my hand and just kind of smooth it down. If you see any air bubbles, you want to, especially around the screened areas, you want to make sure you get those smoothed out, because if there's an air bubble around the edge of the screen, the chances are you're going to have some bleeding of your chalk underneath that transfer, and then it's not going to be ruined. You'll just have to do some extra cleanup at the end. It just makes for a crisper finish if you have no air bubbles. Let me make it simple, just no air bubbles. So go ahead and smooth that out, and if you need to, you can use your clean squeegee and just drag that along your design to make sure you don't have any air bubbles. Good to me. So now I'm going to take my prepared chalk paste. Let me turn this around so you guys can watch it the right way. Hopefully that's centered up there. All right. So now I'm going to take enough chalk paste that I can at least do one section. Just like that. Set that aside. And I will just start pulling the chalk paste across the screened areas. You don't need to do the entire transfer because you only want it to feed through those chalk or those screened in areas. I don't know why I keep saying screened areas. Sorry. Go ahead, get that done. This is it's a big transfer, but the words are not huge, so I know that doesn't really make sense, does it? I guess it does. So you want to work as quickly as possible and try to do the entire transfer in one sweep, so that way you're not having to pull off. And I'll show you that on a different piece here. We'll do the chalk and pull method on a different piece. So go ahead and get this all done so then you can pull it off, and then I'm going to go ahead and show you how to clean it as well in the next segment. Scrape off your excess and you'll put it right back into your jar because it is reusable. All of that dried stuff that I showed you at the beginning, that's from scraping it back into your jar. So you scrape it back into your jar and you can reuse it. All right, so I am done with this. Scrape that off, put my tools away, put my jar away, and now I'm going to go ahead and pull it up. Let me move my stuff so I can lay it out here. In the next segment, I'm going to show you how I clean it. Go ahead and grab, I'm going to turn this to the side here. You want to grab and pull straight back evenly so you're not twisting and warping your transfer. And you might just have to move your hands up or use one hand anyway. Go. You always want to work gently so that way you're not twisting that transfer. I'm going to go ahead and lay this on my tablecloth real quick. And that is it, you guys. If you want, you don't have to because it will dry on its own, but sometimes I use a hair dryer and I will dry this. But since this is the only color I'm going to use, I don't really need to do that. It'll dry on its own in about 15 minutes, I'd say. I'm gonna check here and see if I have any. Oh, there's a tiny little area there that I don't know where that came from, but there, we're good to go. We'll let that dry, and now I'll be back in a few minutes and I will show you how to clean that transfer off. right, now what I'm gonna do is take this transfer, and this is just plain water. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in there, push it down in, get it all nice and wet. These are just microfiber cloths that I ordered off of Amazon. Love Amazon. And I'm sorry if you can't see my head completely. I'm gonna move this forward so you can actually see in the water bath. So you just wanna let that soak for just a few minutes, few seconds, few minutes. And then I'm going to take my board eraser. These come in a pack of 2. They're awesome. Just put it in there. Hopefully you can see this okay. I'm gonna turn the container this way. Hopefully you can see that a little bit better. And you're just going to basically wipe gently on the surface. Actually, with the larger transfers, I normally do them in the sink, but I want to be able to show you guys how to do this, so I'm doing it in my wash tub here. So you take a board eraser and you basically just gently scrub that chalk paste away. Make sure you get it out of the open mesh areas. If you have any along the edges or in the actual mesh area like that, you can see there's some left in there. You want to make sure you get that cleaned out as well as possible. If that dries in there, the chalk paste will not feed through correctly the next time you go to use your transfer. So you want to make sure that's cleaned up as well as possible. And it may be impossible to get every little speck out, which is fine. You just want to do your best. Try to make it look as good as new if possible. And so you're going to do that with the entire transfer on the front. I'm not going to go through the whole thing with you. I'll just kind of show you. Then you'll turn it over and you'll see it feeds through onto the back, obviously, but you'll see that some of the back has more chalk paste in there. So you'll just kind of rub that out of what's on the back. Make sure you don't have any like stray paste on the back. If so, just go ahead and scrub that off. You don't want to really scrub hard on the back because it does have adhesive on it, so you want to keep as much of that I can't talk right now. Keep as much of that adhesive intact as possible. So that's what you do there. So I have 2 of these microfiber cloths laying here. I'm going to lay this down on top of them. I'm going to lay it sticky side up. Move this out of the way. Grab my other microfiber cloths. Now I'll move these over so you can see what I'm doing. So you see how wet that is. I like to take some other ones and just kind of sandwich the transfer in between the microfiber cloths and just kind of squeeze out any excess water. Okay, now, this is what I do if I want to reuse it right away. I will go ahead and grab my my hair dryer, And this can be kind of tricky for the larger transfers, so I kind of hold it in the middle like this, but I will put it on low and just make sure it's completely dry. I'll do that with the entire transfer. That's only if I'm going to reuse it right away. And the reason I do that is because if there is any water left in the transfer, if it's still damp, and you put it on your surface and you try to chalk on that, it could potentially bleed underneath your transfer. So that's why I like to have it good and dry. And then it's really sticky yet, so you're gonna have to fuzz it again before you use it. So, all right, that's how we do that. And then when you're done, let me grab my backer. I don't know where my backer went. Actually, let me find that so I can show you exactly what I do. Okay, here we go. So once it's completely dry, the bigger transfers, I find if you lay the sticky side up and you're gonna place it back on the shiny side, I kind of line up the corner, one corner, and just kind of lay it back down, and that's not right. You may have to redo it a few times. So lay down one corner and kind of line up the top edge. And that is pretty good. And then smooth it out and then flip it over. And then you'll put it back in your protective sleeve. Maybe. And slide that in there. Now it's got sticky at the bottom. Sometimes they're at the bottom, sometimes they're at the top. Just go ahead and pull that out and make sure it's stuck at the bottom there. So when you hang it up, normally it's best to hang if you can. If you can't, just lay them flat so they're not getting bent up or curled or anything. And then you're good to go. And now I will be right back to show you the chalk and peel method. Okay, so for the chalk and peel method, I've chosen to use one of my old Halloween transfers. And I'm using the board from the board and base, and I forgot to bring the base over, so I guess you'll just have to imagine it standing up. I'm just showing you the technique, so go ahead and get this on there. I don't know if I have to fuzz this one or not. It's been a while. Nope, that's pretty good. All right. Place this on. The reason I'm not fuzzing because this one has been used probably 10 times already, so it's lost some of its stickiness, so it should be good to go. So just smooth it out. Make sure there are no air bubbles. And I am using orange peel and meadow today for the chalk and peel method. Check this out and see if it needs stirred here. And add a little bit of water. It's kind of thick. That's good. I'm going to check my meadow, see where we're at. That looks pretty good. All right, so the first thing I want to do is we are doing the chalk and peel method. So what that is you'll chalk one area and then you'll pull that area up and let it dry, or use a hair dryer to dry it, and then you'll move to your next area. The reason we do this is because if you chalk the entire thing and let it dry, and then you go to pull it up, all that chalk paste is pretty much going to be left in your the silk screen area of your transfer, and then you're just going to have to redo it anyway. So that's the whole idea behind it. You don't want to let your chalk paste dry in your transfer, because you're going to have to redo your project. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and get started with my orange. So I'm going to do the top half, and then I'm going to do the bottom half with my meadow. Turn this sideways here. I'll just do sweets this whole top half with my orange. Super simple, it can be super quick. Just try not to get it in the areas that you don't want it. Once you get the whole area covered that you want, go ahead and scrape off your excess. Go back over and scrape all that off. Okay, I'm going to set this aside real quick. And now what I'm going to do is I will pull that top part up. I usually like to hold down the area that still needs to be chalked yet. Go ahead and pull this up. I'll keep trying to hold that bottom part down, and I'm going to use my hair dryer real quick, just to make sure it's good and dry before it falls back down onto that area. And it doesn't take long. You can just do it real quick. Set that aside, and I'll just let it fall down. You don't push it down, you just kind of let it fall. And then what you're going to do is rub down that next area to get it ready to go for your green, or whatever color you're choosing to use. Okay, turn that sideways. It's a little chunky, but it still will be good. Okay. Go ahead and feed your green on. Make sure if you guys have any questions, leave those in the comments, and I will be sure to answer them. Great. Scrape off the excess. Now you're all done. You just grab the top of your transfer and go ahead and pull it off. Look how cute that is. Super simple. How easy is that, you guys? I'm gonna go ahead and hit it with my hair dryer. Not that I need to, but that way it's ready to go. Super simple, and now I don't have my base to put it on. I don't think I have a base behind me either. Sorry. You get the idea. I'll post finished projects at the beginning and the end, so you'll be able to see them. All right, let me know if you guys have any questions or comments. Thanks for watching, guys.